Hi, welcome back to Cooking on the Farm. This week we've traveled to Singapore. So far we've shared some videos that we've been watching, and right now I'm going to start to cook a very traditional Singapore breakfast. I posted the recipes before on the class website already. I'm going to do a slight variation on what's called kaya jam. And kaya jam is really a coconut jam. So let me show you the ingredients. So it's really quite simple, but also pretty unique and delicious. And what we're going to be using today is I'm going to be using some eggs. It's my fresh from the chickens. I'm going to be using some sugar, two kinds of sugar. The first type is palm sugar. Remember this from last week when we were cooking? Use it in a lot of Southeast Asian cooking treats. And so I have some palm sugar in here, and then I also have regular sugar, just granulated sugar. And we're going to use coconut milk. We're going to make, it's called a coconut jam. It's much closer to what you might call a curd, like a lemon curd. And so we're going to use coconut milk. And then here is the unusual and very special ingredient for making this jam. And these are called pandan leaves. I buy my pandan leaves when I can find them in the freezer section of any Asian market. And this is what they look like. So there you go. They're actually from a screw pine plant. And they have this incredible flavor and just this really intoxicating smell. It smells kind of nutty, a little bit like toasted rice, but also a sweetness to it. And you'll see pandan show up in a lot of Vietnamese pastries that have a green color to them all over Vietnam for sure, definitely Thailand as well, and Malaysia. And the thing to remember about Singapore is it's this amalgamation of Malaysian, Chinese, and a couple different strong ethnic groups. So you're going to see some of these common ingredients, which we've been talking about in class. So I'm going to start to put this all together. And the first thing we need to do is we need to separate some eggs. So I'm going to show you how I separate eggs. This is a good skill to have, and everyone will find their own groove, but this is how I like to do it. I start with my egg and a dish that I'm going to crack and try and separate over. I like to crack, so it's not, actually I'll use my pointier egg for showing this demo. I like to crack somewhere at the bottom, not halfway. I find it's just a little bit easier for separating. That's me. So a little tap on the counter, and then I'm just going to crack that little cup off. And then I like to use my hands. My hands are the best tools I've got. So I just pour that in, maybe go back and forth a little bit. I have the yolk. This is what I want for the jam. This is going to go into this bowl. Happy about those yolks. Now the whites, I can use them for something else. My kids love making meringues, so I'm just going to save the whites. I'm going to do this with my other 3 eggs. So I'm shooting for cracking sort of towards one end of the egg. Oh, good thing I did the other one first. This one's a mess. But the nice thing is if you separate an egg over its own bowl, if a yolk breaks, that's okay. And just make scrambled eggs with that egg and get another one. And last one, I get 4 for 4. Okay, success. Now, these yolks are quite orange. Our chickens get to run all over our farm and they eat lots of bugs. And that's what helps to make these so dark and rich. Also, they're nibbling at grass. They're out in the sun a lot, so healthy chickens, really dark egg yolks. Now I'm going to take these yolks. I'm going to give them a quick little stir just to break them up. I don't want to mix them too much. They're like the same orange as the bowl. You can hardly even tell. Okay, I'm just going to set this aside. And then I'm going to measure out some coconut milk. I need almost a cup, just shy of a cup. So I love this. If you can find coconut milk in a pack like this, it's great. I know most of us get our coconut milk in a can, which is fine, but you won't be using the whole can. This I like because I can seal it up and use it for other things, smoothies, ice cream, soups, all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna measure that out. And I want right between 3/4 of a cup and 1 cup. That's perfect. I'm gonna pour that into my pan. This is a hot mess. Hang on. Just want to keep a nice clean counter. All right. Cap off. Use that coconut milk. Something else. And then I'm going to add my sugar to my coconut milk. And then join me on the stove. Welcome back. Now we're at the stove, and we're going to set up what's called a bain-marie, or a water bath, or a double boiler. So I have the coconut milk and the 2 types of sugar, Pandan sugar and granulated sugar, in the pan, and I'm going to put it over another pot of simmering water. Fits pretty well. You can get creative. This is my favorite way of doing it. And, sorry, I'm left-handed. I'm going to put it over this way. It's easier for me to hold it with my right and stir with my left. Now, over this gentle heat, what I'm going to be doing is melting the sugar into that coconut milk. And then we are eventually going to add the egg yolks to this. But before we do, I'm going to add the pandan leaves. Now, I like to snip my pandan leaves into smaller pieces. Some suggestions if you can't get pandan leaves, because they are really hard to get. Keep your eyes open. I'm also going to add a little pinch of salt here. Keep your eyes open at Uwajimaya, Viet Hoa, H Mart, any of the local Asian markets in the freezer section. If you ever see it fresh, grab it, bring it home, pop it in the freezer. We're going to get this going. And what we want is we're steeping the pandan leaves. I'll just give you a quick little peek at that. So we've just got the coconut milk, pandan leaves, sugar, and a pinch of salt. I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and then we'll whisk it into the egg yolks and then back. I'll show you that in just a second. All right, welcome back. So I've heated the coconut milk with the pandan leaves and the sugar. And really what this did was it steeped the pandan into the coconut milk. It smells awesome. I'm really sorry you can't be here to share the smell. Just this nuttiness, toasted rice, unbelievable. So now what we're going to do is we are going to incorporate this with the egg yolks. What this is called tempering. So we are a lot of skills in this very simple dish. First, we talked about separating eggs. Now we're using a bain-marie. And next, we're going to be tempering egg yolks. And what that means is we need to be able to cook these egg yolks that we just carefully separated with this coconut milk all together without letting the egg yolks curdle. So the way we do this is we're going to just let a little bit of the coconut milk into the egg yolks as I carefully whisk it. So just a wee bit, just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And I have to make sure I'm whisking, because if I don't, I might have a hot spot and then the egg yolks will curdle. And you don't want sweet tasting scrambled eggs. That's not the goal. The goal is to have very smooth, wonderful, jam-like texture that we can spread on our toast in the morning. So I'm going to keep adding in this. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling pretty good about this, pretty stabilized. So I'm actually going to pour the rest of my liquid through a strainer. You can cook your jam with the pandan leaves in it. Oh, it's such a pretty color already. I instead quadrupled the number of pandan leaves you would normally put in the coconut milk, and I used that extra to sort of speed up the flavoring. Otherwise, I'm picking out pandan leaves later after it's jammy and it's just a mess. It's a delicious mess, but it's a mess. And our family really loves this, so I don't want to hold back on any potential jammy goodness. All right, so now this mixture is all consistent, very smooth, but it's really loose. I have a little bit of pandan leaves. I can pull that out later. What I need to do now is I'm going to put this back over the bain-marie. And notice I've switched to a bowl, a glass bowl, which is my preference. And I'm going to now gently cook this over the bain-marie. And I'm going to use a spatula. Just kind of scrape the sides and stir this. By cooking it over a bain-marie, I'm holding it back at a certain temp. This is never going to be hotter than the temperature of boiling water, which is 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius. And the curdling point for this is just a little bit higher as long as I keep this all going. So it's going to take a little while. Check back in a little bit, and I'll show you the final product. All right, welcome back. I've been cooking the kaya jam to a point at which we call in cooking the custard stage. And when we say the custard stage, we don't mean like frozen ice cream custard or like pudding. It's actually a technical cooking term. So this, yet another skill. And what we mean is if you take like a spoon and you were to reach in there and give it a good stir, I can flip this over and draw my finger across the spoon, and it should leave a clear track and not fill in on either side. So this is telling me it's ready to come off of the heat and into my jar. I have a jam jar with a simple funnel. So I'm going to take this off. Be really careful because the glass has been sitting over a steam bath. So did you notice how I did that? I just pick it up so I go away from that steam, not towards it. Move that to the side. And I'm going to pour my jam into my jar. Scraping up all of those last little bits. If you make this at home and your eggs get a little curdled, that's okay. What you can do is you can strain it through a strainer like I did with the pandan leaves. That's just fine. And no one will know. I'm just going to stick the lid on this. I'm going to put this in the fridge. And guess what we're having for breakfast tomorrow? Stay tuned. Bye.